Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch. Please subscribe to our videos on YouTube and like this video if you find it useful. This is a review of the Hublot Big Bang 44. This is essentially the original Big Bang. They still make it today, but it came out over 10 years ago. I write a lot more in detail about the history of the Big Bang and all it meant to Hublot and Jean-Claude Biver, who was the owner and the CEO at the time. He's still obviously very heavily involved with the brand. And this has probably been one of the most controversial watches of the last decade. Controversial not in the watch itself, but controversial in how Hublot took a major, I don't want to call it separation, but it went off in its own direction from the sort of established norm of luxury watch brand marketing. And it did so in a very, very big way. And that made a lot of people like the brand. It also made a lot of, I'll call it purists, not necessarily like what the brand was doing from a marketing perspective. And it all sort of came down to the Big Bang. One of the things that the Big Bang did was be designed to be modular, right? So the bezel could be changed with a different color material. There's all these different pieces which are modular, which allowed it to have many, many different looks. And that was sort of essential to the ability to have the Big Bang have so many different versions, was this modular design. But what did Hublot do? Well, they made many, many different versions. So there are countless limited editions of this watch. And after years, it got a little long in the tooth for some people because they said, you know, Hublot, we really like the Big Bang or whatever, but you're just coming out with too many of them. Let's see new stuff. Hublot eventually did that, of course, and there's all different types of versions of the Big Bang and different models, but this is among the original designs. This is 44 millimeters wide. There's also a 41 millimeter wide version. And I haven't actually had a chance outside of this piece to wear and review the original of the Big Bangs. I've done reviews of the newer Big Bang Unico 45s. This one, like I said, is the original. So let's see how this watch has aged, because this was a watch that originally had, it's not even sized for my wrist right now. I was letting someone on the aBlogtoWatch staff wear it, I will admit it. We like to share the love. So there we go, that is the 44 millimeter wide size. I've actually also worn the 41, which looks good. The 44 is obviously a little bit bigger, but if you think that this is too big and you like the design, check out the 41. It's literally the exact same design, just a little bit less. So what was really good about the Big Bang? Why was this so popular when it came out in circa 2004? I think the first ones came out in 2005, but I think that there was prototypes at the end of 2004. This was a big deal. This was advanced looking. It was based upon industrial design versus what I'll call traditional watch design. I mean, it was a merger of traditional watch designers and industrial designers, because at the time, the prevailing notion was that a lot of people, especially young people, didn't want to buy watches that were old looking or designed in a very traditional way. People wanted modern things, and the Big Bang was one of the answers. This was not an inexpensive watch. This wasn't what I would call accessible, but in the luxury segment, there really wasn't that much that was so large and bold in terms of the design. I mean, look at that. There's these modern stencil style military Arabic numerals on the dial. You have these different materials. It was, Jean-Claude Biver really came out strong with this statement called the art of fusion. For him, the art of fusion was fusing all these different types of materials together. So, in the typical Big Bang, you have this black ceramic bezel, you have a steel case, rubber strap, the screws are titanium. There's this intersection here, which is kind of a resin, actually. It's interesting. It's essentially a form of a plastic. And you can see these little side flanks here. I'm actually not sure the precise material that it is. It's a hard material. It's good, but I think some people took issue because when the watch came out, they're like, how are you selling a watch that's this price that doesn't have all metal or hard materials on the outside? And again, I've never heard anybody complain about this material being anything but durable, but it was novel at the time because people found it to be very interesting that there was these materials that weren't necessarily the metals that they were used to. But as you can see, like I said, different metals, different materials and things like that. Of course, there have been gold versions and titanium versions and all ceramic versions and magnesium versions and different exotic materials and things like that. There's all kinds of different flavors, but the original one is one of the is similar to this. The dial is actually not carbon fiber, but it's a dial meant to look like carbon fiber. And I was like, why isn't it just carbon fiber? And then I realized this carbon fiber print, I think as they call it, or pattern, actually looks a little bit better than carbon fiber. Inside the watch is a base Swiss ETA movement, a chronograph with some customization on there. Hublot, offers their own rotor. They even go so far as to put their name on the movement. It's pretty nicely decorated. People complained about this movement. They're like, oh, this movement is not high end enough for a watch at this price. And maybe there was some truth to that. There's no issues with this movement. It's extremely reliable. The Unico movement that are in the more expensive ones is I guess you call superior movement. I've never had a problem with this one. It's a standard reliable movement. Again, if you are a watch movement lover and you want something more exclusive, yeah, you're probably going to want to get the Unico or something else. Let's put this back on the wrist. The strap was always an interesting thing. I was never really sure how I felt about it. You have this kind of a grading pattern here with these vertical lines. This was one of the first watches I'd ever seen that had a strap system where the excess strap goes on the inside, right? So you had a nice clean look here on wearing it, but you didn't have the strap sticking out on the outside as many watches before it had. So I remember the first time I put it on thinking to myself, wow, that's so clever, because you have a nice clean look, but the excess strap is essentially hidden on the inside. And since then, many, many, many watches have followed this design. I can't say for sure if Hublot was the first to do it, or when they did it exactly, but for me, this was the first watch I have ever worn or seen at the time, which had this nice clasp system, and it's essentially something what you see in pretty much every single Hublot that comes on a strap. How is the design aged is a question which I have been asking myself, because again, I'm reviewing this in 2017, essentially 12 years after the Big Bang originally went to market. I talked to Jean-Claude Biver about this, and I asked him what he thought about the design and how it aged. And of course, he's very proud of this collection. I think he said in so many words that this is probably going to be remembered as the most iconic watch ever to come from him. He's obviously been involved in a lot of different timepieces, but he doesn't think that any watch is going to exceed the popularity that the original Big Bang had. It really made a big bang in the watch industry. It did a lot of important things. It ruffled a lot of feathers, but it's and it's hard to disconnect it. If you remember, all the era of the Big Bang, the several years after 2005, it's hard to separate the watch from the marketing and the events and all the ambassadors and all the sponsorships and things like that. It's hard to take that away from the watch itself, which isn't a good or bad thing. It's just a thing. The watch itself stands up very well. It's very legible, it's sporty, it's fun, has a distinctive design that doesn't look like anything other than a Big Bang. Some people, when the Big Bang first came out, they kept saying, this looks like an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak offshore. And they based that on this part right here. And maybe the overall dimensions. I mean, the Royal Oak doesn't have flanks like this. That's more something that like a Nautilus would have, as well as the original Hublot watches. Hublot came out in the early 1980s. It means porthole, and this was a modernization of an original look. So this is built on something from the 80s. So I reject the notion that this looks anything like any Audemars Piguet. Maybe you disagree, but I feel that this looks like an Hublot Big Bang and nothing other than a Hublot Big Bang. Again, even after all these years, Hublot still continues to produce a large volume of the Big Bang 44, as this series is called. Price for this model, which is the 301.SB.131.RX. Retail price is $13,600. That is still a hefty amount of money, but it's a decent watch, and it comes with a good wearing experience. And again, after all these years, it has aged very nicely. You can see the full review of the Hublot Big Bang 44 on aBlogtoWatch. Thank you.